Oh man, I've been thinking about what I'm gonna say, and the thought that just came to my mind, which I'm gonna run with, is I lost $82,000, and this happened in like a 24-hour period. It was just incredibly emotional time in my life. This was back in 2020 during the stock market craze and everything like that, and I accumulated a good amount of money and through selling real estate. And I was playing around in the stock market. I was seeing things online of people, day traders, doing incredibly well throughout that period because everything was going up, everything was going crazy. And I wanted in on the action. Now, this was a few years ago. I was not as wise as I am today, but it got to a point where I wanted to make a trade and I was trading options. And I was doing pretty well trading options, but I was only using like 5, 10,000, at per option at that time, and things were going well, but I wanted more. I wanted to push the extent of the returns, and one day I decided to put, and this was without even thinking too much on it. I just went for it. I put 50,000 on an option that expired that day, which I I can't even comment on that, but I put it on an option to expire that day, and I was watching it, and there was just so much emotion watching it go up and down, and it started dropping, and I didn't know what to do. I was like, well, should I leave it in or should I take it out and just take what I can? And I was like, well, you know what? Like, let's just let it ride and see what happens. And towards the end of the day, it started it started moving even further down, and I was like, "Oh no." And so I put more in. I put more in. And after the day after it closed, it ended up being worth nothing. And I was so just crushed. Like, I cannot believe I just did this. I just made this money and, set myself up financially and could have grown that wealth, but I chose to put it on this option. I was just an emotional wreck. I was devastated because this was me at 25. I thought money was everything. I thought depending on what's in your bank account determines your worth, your value, and I was just absolutely crushed. And I remember I was at dinner that night and I was sitting by myself and I was so just out of it. And I thought to myself that I identified so much as that number, as that amount of money. I identified with that money. I didn't identify with the man that I am. I identified with the external possession, the material item. And it was a huge learning experience for me because I realized that that is not who I am. That does not determine my worth. And I had to go through a cleanse of probably like a 24, 48 hour period of like really regaining my composure, regaining my identity as to who I am, defining myself who I am. And that was such a difficult period of my life because that was all that you knew. I knew that that was everything. That determined my worth because I grew up seeing people with money, with possessions, and I thought that their value was determined based on those things. And I would look up to certain people if they had certain things. I just had a very skewed perspective of the world, which brings me to the message of this video. I was devastated. I was crushed. I was like, why did I do this? I can't believe I would do such a thing. I feel like I'm not even worthy or of value to the world. And I was so upset. And in that moment, this was about 48 hours after, in that moment, a voice spoke to me and said, are you going to stay this way and continue to look at it as this? Or are you going to look at it as something that you have to overcome? And the thought came to my mind of what a better story. What a better story for you in your life to overcome this at such a young age. I lost $82,000 at 25. Most people don't even have that kind of money at that age. So that, to me, that was just proof that, hey, I know I'm going to make way more in my lifetime. So why am I even going to trip about this? So that, just shifting that perspective, using your perception to change how you're looking at that situation can change everything in your life. You may be going through something right now. It may be a difficult situation, a divorce, breakup, financial loss, health, whatever it may be. Change your perception of that. Ask a different question. See it in a different way, because that's going to cause you to grow from it or be bewildered by it, to be hurt by it, to not be able to overcome it, to not step up, when the truth is that we all have greatness within us. We all have extreme potential, infinite potential. You can't even guess at someone's potential, but it comes from knowledge, from wisdom, from understanding our higher mental faculties, this perception that we have that we can play with and use it in our life to change our life in such a great way. You may be going through a difficult time right now, but you know what? That's why you're going to make it. Change your perception. And if you do that, the thing that you are looking at will change. Everything will change if you change your perception. So thank you for watching. I know this brought some value to you, just changing the perception, perspective. And I'll see you next video. Peace.